Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to podcast, the storm of social awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Evening, folks. How are you guys today?
And I am your host, slash Time War wannabe, the brainstormer of pop culture. How's everyone doing tonight? Hello, SoCal Gaming. How are you? He says, hey, and finally catching the first minute.
Yeah, don't worry about this. Okay, everyone just kind of files in when they file in. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so hope everyone's having a good weekend, and I hope everyone has some fun plans for 4th of July.
Fun fact: Thomas Jefferson actually initially wanted the celebration to occur on July 2nd and not July 4th, because July 2nd was the day that most of the actual drafting of the Declaration got done, and so on. But they didn't unveil it to the public until the 4th of July, and so July 4th is what stuck. It was one of the many things that annoyed Jefferson in his old age. Which I have to say I can't blame him, because it's like, well, we did all the work 2 days before this, but whatever.
Yeah, I can kind of understand it, but also, I mean, it's in relative ballpark of time.
It's still acknowledging the day and acknowledging all the work you did, and I mean you did set off fireworks for the first 4th of July as well, so of course that's going to be the date that sticks in everyone's mind. But yeah, poor Jefferson is sitting there thinking, well, I did all the work on the 2nd. Why is everybody celebrating the 4th? Oh, Jefferson.
All right. Well, I do want to get this article out of the way, so let's just move on.
Mm-hmm.
This article we were going to cover last week, but just due to time constraints.
Yeah, because Ahsoka asked us to cover the Nick Merckx thing, and let's just say this is the cherry on top of the sundae.
Right. So it was originally from. Okay. There we go. Yeah. This was originally from RollingStone.com, but I'm using an archived version just because there was that kind of paywall thing for it for the actual site. So. Yeah. All right. So shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Outrage over Call of Duty LGBTQ pride brings us full circle to Genghi. I'm gonna be honest. Every time I try to say LGBTQ, I keep thinking of LBT.
You mean a BLT?
BLT. Sorry.
I am surprised that I, who nominally don't like sandwiches, was able to pull that out when you weren't able to.
I mean, I don't eat the. I mean, it's not really a sandwich I eat. So.
I don't eat basically any sandwiches except for grilled cheese, because I'm not a monster.
Okay, that will always not be the weirdest thing I know about you.
That's the all the occult weirdness, all the being crippled, all the being gay. No, he draws the line at not liking sandwiches. I don't. Your
Okay,
your standards are very amusingly innocent, my friend.
but before we move on, let me break this down. Okay, Just how I view all this. Okay, as your friend. One, the occult book is a good source of knowledge and research that I can draw upon when I'm doing things like for projects and stuff.
Hmm.
Also, just really fascinating. Not gonna lie,
Hmm.
really fascinating thing about you. Uh, Second, whole being gay thing. I mean, whatever, man. I don't give a shit. Love who you love. You know.
Hmm.
Although I will admit this, if they do hurt you, I will fucking kill them.
Yeah, and if you ever find a significant other and she hurts you, then bitches die. Bitches die horribly.
Yeah.
And then I summon the night horde like fucking Dracula.
Yeah. And the whole cripple thing. I mean, if anything is in the last month or so, if anything taught me, shit sucks. It's more so how the person overcomes that.
Hmm.
And I respect you a lot more because you don't let it define you. So,
In fairness, I have had 27 and soon to be 28 years of practice because my birthday is in 23 days. So yeah, I've had a while to get used to it, and also I never and this is one thing that I respect with regards to people who have you know normal quote unquote uh uh physiology and then lose it. I never had anything to lose. This is just my normal for me. So I imagine it would be a lot harder to have it and then lose it than it would be just to not have it to begin with.
yeah. But yeah, just like the sandwich thing will always be weird to me just because everyone I have ever met and known in my entire life so far, which is 24 years,
Oh, you're young.
no, 20,
Oh, young.
23, 24 months and later. But my point being, everyone I know that I've ever met and had conversations with, they like sandwiches, okay? And I get, yeah, grilled cheese is a big specialty, understandable. But it's so weird. I'm sorry. It's like that. Yeah, it's gonna be the weird. That is always gonna be the weirdest thing I know about you.
Again, for all the things about me that are weapons grade weird that you don't find unusual, the fact that you draw the line at something so innocuous is hilarious and innocent to me. You sweet summer child.
Um, well, I guess I forget to say it, Ahsoka. Happy early birthday. As she said, in 2 months, in September, she'll be 23.
Well, then I guess we all have birthdays to look forward to because I know Eglantine's is actually on the 28th, so of July. He's just a few days. He's several decades before, but several days calendar wise after me. So yeah.
Um, yeah, I was catching what you were saying about like Gamergate and stuff earlier. Me and Dalton having that little side chat. But yeah, just so let us get this article read.
Yep, it's Gamergate o'clock again, folks, because
Okay.
because it lives rent free in the mainstream media's brain.
Okay.
I love it.
So let me start over. Uh, Outrage over Call of Duty LGBTQ pride brings us full circle to Gamergate. Almost a decade ago, video game culture helped give the rise to the anti-woke movement that continues to play us today. This was written by Miles Klee and published June 14th, 2023.
Sweetheart, I hate to burst this bubble. Actually, no, I love bursting this bubble, but I'm gonna do it gently anyway. You, you realize, of course, that wokeness is the plague. you're basically bitching at the people providing the vaccine for it, for the existence of the virus. I I I know to you wokeness looks like social justice looks normal, but that's because you are stuck in your own framework and can't see anything outside of your framework. But for everyone the fuck else in the world, I'm gonna enjoy bursting this bubble for you. Yeah, no, wokeness is the plague. Anti-wokeness or anti-social justice is the cure. Although I will say this, I really hate that we stopped using the phrase social justice to describe these people and moved to wokeness, because social justice is actually descriptive of what they fucking claim to do, in the same way that the Family Values Brigade of yesteryear can be called the Family Values Brigade, because it actually, like, it's an actual descriptive term. Woke is sort of by its very nature tautological and meaningless. So I will always refer to you people as social justice warriors. I don't fucking care about the NPC meme, because the NPC meme describes nothing, and wokeness is so nebulous that it also describes nothing. So you guys are the social justice lobby as far as I'm concerned, and you can get fucked. But yeah, you guys are the plague. We are the cure. Lol.
Right. Okay. Another day, another multi-billion-dollar corporate giant in the crosshairs of the anti-woke right. This time, it's Activision Blizzard, the fifth largest video game firm in the world, that agrees reactionaries are threatening to boycott.
You do realize that anti-social justice is not just a right-wing phenomena. In ye old Gamergate days, the majority of the people opposing social justice were center left, if not directly on the center. Like the idea that conservatism somehow owns the idea of being anti-social justice, it's just stupid. Also, it's not accurate in descriptive terms either, because there are people like me who are classically liberal in principle, social democratic in practice, who are vehemently opposed to both the family values bullshit of yesteryear and the social justice of current year. But yeah, anti-social justice is not a right wing, or even I would argue it's not even majoritarily right wing, because here's the thing: right wing cancellation, or right wing moral posturing would be a better phrase for it, is just as toxic and dismissed as is social justice. Look at, and I'll give a perfect example. Couple, I think it was almost a year ago. Matt Walsh, conservative provocateur extraordinaire, made a claim that anime was satanic, and large swaths of his own fan base bitch slapped him in the public sphere, because of how morally censorious and fucktarded that was. So, quite frankly, this isn't even a majoritarily right wing phenomenon, because when the right answers left wing moralism with their own, they get laughed at too. If anything, and I've beaten this dead horse to the point that it basically ground meat at this point, but if anything, this is a libertarian or populist opposition to moralism and authoritarianism thing. It's not a left versus right thing, because most of the people who are on the ground anti-woke are probably more akin to the center than they are to anything else, and they can be found all over the frickin' shop otherwise. So yeah, it's not a left versus right thing, or a conservative, or a American conservative versus American liberal thing. It's a classical liberal libertarians and populist thing versus moralistic fucktards thing. Moving on.
Okay. With so many of these stories, the inciting controversy is ridiculously minor. Nick Merckx, real name Nick Korchev, a streamer who came up playing games including Activision's Call of Duty titles, and now has millions of subscribers across Twitch and YouTube, earlier this year partnered with the brand to launch its own skin in the war-based first-person shooter franchise. Fans could purchase these assets to play the game as his custom character. There are strong opinions in the gaming world about these influencer partnerships, so not everyone was thrilled with the addition, but that's not even the main story here. No, the real drama erupted a week after the Nick Merckx bundle went on sale when Korchev tweeted in apparent support of anti-LGBTQ protesters who fought LGBTQ supporters in Glendale, California, outside a school board meeting about recognizing Pride Month, declining to esports broadcaster Chris Puckett showed a video of a chaotic brawl and tweeted, "Let people love who they love and live your own life," Korchev wrote. "They shouldn't leave little children alone. That's the real issue."
And again, this definitely isn't a moralistic right-wing talking point. This isn't a, family values tradcon clutching the pearls and going, "Won't somebody please think of the children?" No matter how much you want to make it look like that, the difference is, for one thing, I don't think Nick Merckx is particularly right-wing affiliated in any case. For another thing, in this case, we're actually talking about people in schools who actually do want to institute things like critical queer theory, which I can't speak today, and critical race theory, actually wanting to pursue an ideological lens in children's education. That's the difference. While both, moralistic tradcons and everyone the fuck else can say, "Won't somebody please think of the children?" the centrist stroke libertarian stroke populist stroke even people on the left who aren't affiliated with social justice as an ideology can say that that's a good, that, leaving children alone and basically making them an ideological neutral zone is a good thing. Whereas, when the tradcons say, "Won't somebody please think of the children?" they're doing it on narrow tradcon reasoning, which usually resolves in not, a lack of moralism, but just replacing one kind of moralism for another. And again, I will make this point until the cows come home. It's not a left versus right thing. It's a libertarian populist, stroke classical liberal versus moralistic authoritarian fucktard thing. And I don't care which direction the moralism is pointing in. I hate the Helen Lovejoys, and I also hate the Karens. It's really not that hard to hate both.
By the next day, Activision had removed the Nick Merckx products from their stores, and the Call of Duty Twitter account seemed to confirm that the decision was connected to Korchev's comment on the Glendale practice. The game also reiterated their commitment to Pride Month. It has featured Pride content for several years. Activision did not immediately respond to Williamson's request for comment as to whether the decision to cut ties with Korchev was prompted by additional factors. I got nothing to say about it.
It's just, you took away something that he had rightfully earned because he said literally the most milquetoast and obviously correct thing it's possible for any human being to say.
Well, okay, to be fair, they took the ability to purchase any more of it. They didn't take away those that have already gotten it. So.
Well, true, but the reason they did that was to rob him of legitimacy, which he had rightfully earned as a partner in the company. So,
yeah, no, again, I agree. It's stupid. But,
and again, the thing that apparently triggered all of this was, hey, maybe children shouldn't be indoctrinated? Question mark. Which again, unless you are a tradcon, religiously evangelical family values twit or a social justice warrior, that is like the center of the dial levels of normal. That is something that everyone, apart from moralistic twits, believe. And again, I just want to point this out for the record. If this was 20 or 30 years ago in a world where they somehow had the internet as we have now, um, and it was, children being indoctrinated into abstinence seminars or, straight conversion therapy, and someone said this, all the people currently getting triggered would be cheering, and all the people currently cheering. Okay, no, I'm not going to say that, because they're, again, like I say, most of the people reacting to this on the ground aren't religiously fanatical, religiously fanatical family values types. They're people of the center who happen to notice that in this particular, epoch, it's the left wing who've gone nuts and the right wing who are, or at least the tangential right wing, that are being somewhat sane. And if it, in 20 years the situation flips again, I expect the grassroots will also flip again, because again, at the end of the day, it's not a left versus right thing. It is a moralism versus freedom of expression and non-interventionist thing.
okay, let me.
People don't like being morally lectured to, no matter who's doing the moral lecturing. And they certainly don't like kids being indoctrinated, period.
Okay, Nick Murph is center left. It's only the far left and far right that want to indoctrinate the children. It's far left versus the rest of the political spectrum. Also,
Again, I don't even think that. As crazy as communists might be, there are plenty of anti-woke communists or anti-social justice communists. It's in the same way that you can be even far right without being a, pearl clutching evangelical tradcon. You can be a even far leftist, like a 2016 Bernie bro, up through Jeremy Corbyn, and not believe in intersectional social justice crap. So yeah, it's in the same way that on the ground, most right-wing people today are probably more libertarian leaning than they are, traditionalism leaning. On the ground, most left-wing people are still somewhere in the general vicinity of a Bernie Sanders 2016 than they are a Anita Sarkeesian or Zoe Quinn. And I do think it's worth reminding the SJWs, you don't frickin' own the left, you cunts. Just like the tradcon evangelicals never owned the entire right either.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The same right wingers is always a hard word for me to say. Same right wingers who have lately pounced on Bud Light, Disney, Target, and Chick-fil-A for efforts at expanding diversity and inclusion fired up the outrageous need to retaliate, with gamers announcing their intent to quit Call of Duty forever. Kochek didn't back down from the tweet, saying on a stream that he thinks LGBTQ identity shouldn't be discussed in school, while arguing that the comment wasn't anti-gay. Another big streamer with a custom Call of Duty bundle, Tim the Catman, the main candidate bad guy, tweeted that Kochek was a friend and therefore wanted his own product removed in solitary, a request that Activision granted.
Okay, enough. Like,
let me read the last sentence.
Sorry. Go ahead.
His post received more than 250,000 likes and thousands of or common. There you go.
Okay, here's the thing. That is disingenuous framing. He wasn't backpedaling, you nutcases. He didn't have anything to backpedal from. He was clarifying what he always meant. That is de facto what happened. The only way he could possibly be backpedaling is if you presuppose the notion of children shouldn't be indoctrinated is inherently anti-LGBT, which again, speaking as a gay person here, please fuck off and do not return ever with that nonsense. I don't want children to be exposed to ideologies or sexualities, period. Now, again, I put an asterisk there because I would say that just like, showing kids Snow White or Sleeping Beauty isn't fake propaganda, showing them like Paranorman or Onward isn't gay propaganda either. But here's the difference. Just like in, a Snow White or Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella, what's being shown there is more the romantic aspects of attraction, not the sexual aspects of attraction. And to, again, to highlight my example of, it happening when it's gay people, Mitch Down admitting that he has a boyfriend at the end of Paranorman is alluding to the romantic aspect of being gay, not the sexual aspect of being gay. And it especially has nothing whatsoever to do with any sort of moral ideology. But when you actually put moral and ideological axioms in your education, and you also add sexual aspects to it, that is officially too far and needs to fuck off. Whether it be straight, gay, or freaking if there's some, third category that I'm missing. Like, it doesn't matter. Romance, yes. Sex, absolutely not. Them's the rules. Romance, yes. Sex, absolutely not. Ideology, absolutely not. Because you don't have to have an ideological lens to appreciate a romantic subplot with a movie, or a story, or a show, or what have you. Moving on.
Right. Hold on. Okay, he didn't backpedal. He literally stated children shouldn't be indoctrinated. And as a bi person, fuck off. I don't want children to be exposed to it either. I'm just saying there's some stuff like the books they wanted to have in school. And let's be honest here, the bisexual person, the bis have, but I think that bias have is a handful of people. Oh no, my bad. The bis have is a handful of people. And hello, Giant Turtle.
Hi, Dragon Turtle. How are you?
Like the lady did I miss one? No, not really.
No, but we're exploring the article wherein it becomes evident that Gamergate still lives in their heads rent free.
Yeah.
Because Nick Merckx saying an incredibly milquetoast, uncontroversial thing is a callback to Gamergate.
Can we see? Can we continue?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say I'm doing relatively good. I mean, stuff's happened, but take the licks,
Mm-hmm. I am doing mostly all right. 23 more days till my birthday, which is nice.
I will admit, it is hot as hell.
Yeah, I have already made my opinions known on how summer is not my favorite season, and how I am looking forward to that sweet period between the October country and the Yuletide season. Please, for the love of God, can we hurry along just a little bit?
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. The outrage outrage campaign that quickly took shape around the incident mocked Call of Duty as Call of Rumors, alluding to the baseless homophobic and transphobic smear, which holds that any discussion of queerness and gender with children is a pretext for pedophiles to prey on them.
Again, let's let's cut the abstract bullshit for 5 minutes and actually look at what happened. You saw Nick Merckx react to some protesting and talking about gay people at a freaking school, not in a sex ed class, mind you, not to kids who are at least approaching pubescency, but I believe it was actually a elementary school, and Nick Merckx responded, "Hey, children shouldn't be ideologically propagandized to." I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And you internalize that as being anti-gay. How exactly the fuck is anyone else supposed to take that? If you presuppose, hey, don't ideologically corrupt children as being anti-gay, what does that say about what you presuppose gayness to be, and or what the target of your activism is? Just like if they were talking about straight sex outside of a sex ed class, I would be freaked too. Even if it were the abstinence kind and the God hates everything but missionary kind from the trad cons of yesteryear. Like, is it truly anti-LGBT in your mind to say, hey, don't ideologically propagandize my kids or anyone else's kids for that matter? Because I'm pretty sure Nick Merckx doesn't even fucking have kids. He's just remarking on the principle here. Like,
He has a child. We covered it last week, I believe.
okay, well then I stand corrected. But even so, I don't have kids, or probably never will, unless I can find a surrogate, assuming I can even find a significant other in the first fucking place. But I still, speaking as a gay person, don't want queer theory or queer, critical theory being shoved into children's minds. Because children, in my opinion, are an ideological neutral zone best left to the devices of an entire community to raise. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and of course the mime, if we're following the Wacko's Witch Steven Spielberg model. Like that's what children should be doing. They should be being taught how to think and being left to explore the world on their own as much as can reasonably be expected, obviously with some filters so they don't, get into some crazy, the actually harmful shit. But yeah, children should be basically a ideological neutral zone until the age of reason. After the age of reason, if you want to have reasonable conversations with them, then sure. But before the age of reason, children shouldn't be exploring this except for maybe in sex ed, and you certainly shouldn't be targeting sex ed at people who aren't even pubescent yet in the first place. Once they're pubescent, send them to sex ed, have these conversations. Before they're pubescent, absolutely not, under any circumstances.
I don't know if sex ed is still a thing.
If it isn't, I'm going to beat my head in with a brick.
Again, I'm speaking from my personal experience where I grew up. I never had sex ed.
Well, okay, that's a completely separate issue, which actually makes this whole thing even more disturbing. Because if the school in question doesn't even have a sex ed course, but they're letting this, ideological woo into, non-sexual subjects, that actually is even more disturbing. Like, if you're gonna talk about these things, you should at least do it in an actual sex ed class where that sort of subject matter belongs and is being targeted at people who again, should be at least partially pubescent or approaching pubescence. Yeah, Ahsoka, that horseshoe theory, though.
Anyway, shall we continue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. While not particularly catchy and psychology only grooming kids for military recruitment, the slogan succeeded on Twitter to the delight of major anti-woke influencers.
Again, you looked at the phrase "leave children alone" and you saw it as anti-LGBT. I'm pretty sure this is what we call a Rorschach test, and I didn't think it was possible for you to fail a Rorschach test, but yea and behold, this appears to be you failing a Rorschach test. Because you looked at the phrase "leave children alone" and you said, "So you're being anti-gay?" That surely that tells us more about what you think gayness is or what you think gay activism is than it does about anything Nick Marks might have thought or said or done.
Alright, moving on.
Yes.
On first glance, this weighs the indignation over a company's nominal endorsement of Pride is exactly like a dozen or so that preceded it. If there's an obvious difference, it's that a video game violent is that a violent video game glorifying war has stretched the reactionaries' already strained definitions of wokeness to their absolute breaking point.
Again, I don't even know what the fuck you're actually playing at in this instance. Like, reactionary basically just means anyone who doesn't adhere to my ideology in this instance, because there's nothing whatsoever. You're literally pulling the exact same argument that Jack Thompson used to pull. The violence in the video games will translate into real world violence. And I hate to burst this particular bubble. Actually, no, I love bursting this particular bubble, but there have actually been studies done that suggest that violent video games act as a form of hypothetical catharsis for violent impulses and therefore cause violence to go down, not up. So the only way you could possibly be intending this is as an abstract moral argument. And just like I told the TradCon evangelicals to fuck off with their abstract moral argument, I'm gonna sing the same song when it comes to you guys. Fuck off with your abstract moral argument. The data is in. We have it. Your claim is not just false; it is counterfactual, i.e., it runs directly contrary to the observable data and logic and evidence.
Uh, Now we got one more paragraph, so.
Mm-hmm.
But this freaking out that actually no, never mind. I was wrong. Alright, but this freaking out that popular shoot 'em up entertainment has somehow been reached by liberal attitudes of acceptance is also a revealing throwback to the troll movement that opened the floodgates to such crusades almost a decade ago. Gamergate. In 2014 and 15, male gamers waged relentless misogynistic harassment of women in the industry using the excuse of a trumped-up media scandal to vent their fury at what they saw as progressive and feminist values in games. Targets were doxxed and threatened with rape and violence as these men lamented the supposed collapse of a purely masculine climate. In those days, the woke crowd was maligned as a army of social justice warriors.
Because they were literally making the exact same moral arguments that Jack Thompson made on the other side of the spectrum. And just like Jack Thompson got told to go get raped in a fire, you moralistic cunts, a bunch of the Zoe Quinns and Andy Sarkeesians and Brianna Woos got told in exactly the same way, in a very egalitarian way, I must say, go get raped in a fire, you ignorant cunt. Your arguments do not hold water, and you are claiming moral authority that you have none of. That's why the alleged harassment took place. Not because people took special exemption to women speaking or some shit, but because they were treating women, who are morons and moralistic fucktards, exactly the same way as they have always treated men, who are uptight moralistic fucktards. In other words, for all of the claims of misogyny, the only thing that happened during Gamergate was a bunch of ideological moralists came into an industry that had no use for them, and the audience responded GTFO, just like they would in any other instance. But because some of those ideological moralists happen to be either women themselves, no, because they happened to be using the identity of womanhood as a human shield, either because they had it or because they were working on the behalf of it, it counts as misogyny, even though it's actually egalitarian equality going on there. The rule, in case y'all missed it back in the day, is if you say stupid shit, you will get angry replies. What the problem of the Gamergate era SJWs is they didn't get special treatment because they had the woman card, and that was apparently absolutely triggering to them. They said stupid shit, thinking their stupid shit would go uncontested because they had the moral high ground, just like every other fucking moralistic fucktard in existence always thinks their stupid bullshit will go unmolested because they have the quote-unquote moral high ground, and it simply wasn't true. Hence, they were regarded with the exact same amount of contempt as Jack Thompson was always subjected to, as well they deserved for being stupid moralistic fucktards.
Polygon and BuzzFeed have filed for bankruptcy.
Good vibrations. Good vibrations. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
This tragedy blowback, of course, follows the script of the past year's increasingly extreme anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. However, it also echoes the old Gamergate narrative, a pastime regarded as brutish and heteronormative, resistant to any encouragement of outsiders now recognized as a diverse set of fans. We can no longer retreat into the sexless, murderous world of Call of Duty without risking the sight of a rainbow flag and getting incredibly mad that gay people exist, even on.
Okay, you ignorant fucktard, because you apparently want to speak on.
Just, like, one more sentence. Even online on a virtual battlefield, we're still Activision welcomes those customers. There you
go. Okay, here's the thing. I remember Gamergate. I was fucking there in 2013, thank you. And a lot of Gamergaters were centrist or center left. Of like, Sargon may have gone full tilt Tradcon recently because of the Lotus Eater's echo chamber he's in, but he was like the quintessential classical liberal back in the day. And yeah, I am gay. I am, however, not LGBT, because LGBT activism has an ideological axe to grind and an ideological framework that I do not and never will subscribe to, and will thank you to fuck off if you ever insist on me being included in such ideological hive mind. Many of the gamers who were part of Gamergate were gay. Many of the gamers who were part of Gamergate happened to be women who just happened to be anti-feminist women, or people who at least were egalitarian women rather than feminist women, and thus you can fuck right off. It has nothing to do with gayness. It has nothing to do with Francis. It has nothing to do with the woman card. It has to do with people don't like being morally lectured, especially by things that they go to for entertainment value or some other kind of meritocratic validation. So if you insist on bringing morality into a non-moral space, not anti-moral, mind you, non-moral, because I'm going to go on a little bit of a philosophical tirade here, but this is why I fucking hate the SJWs and the Tradcoms. They both want to insist on obliterating the third category, because basic little rundown of moral philosophy 101 for you all. In general, in moral philosophy, there are three categories. There are the things which are categorized as moral, there are the things which are categorized as immoral, and there are things that are categorized as neither moral or immoral, to which morality is non-applicable, or that is morally neutral. And the biggest problem with the SJWs is they see anything that they don't automatically define as moral as immoral, which means they completely obliterate the middle position. They completely obliterate the possibility that something can be morally neutral or just non-moralizable, i.e. something to which morality doesn't even apply under normal circumstances. And gaming and art and culture is usually in that second category. It's usually in the neither moral nor immoral, simply because morality doesn't make any fucking sense in this category. But these fucking people want to abolish the second category, and as such, you wind up with this thing where they have ideological constructs of what it means to be a proper gay person, or what it means to be a proper black person, or what it means to be a proper disabled person, or what have you. And if you fall outside of that ideological hive mind, you actively get denounced and get your card revoked. And this is increasingly more disturbing when you consider that most of the academics who propose this ideological hive mind are not themselves gay, are not themselves black, are not themselves disabled, are not themselves female, and so on. I.e., it's people from outside the community, or a very scant number of people who might tangentially be related to the community, claiming moral authority over it, and also claiming that anyone who disagrees with their ideological supposition secretly hates themselves and has Stockholm Syndrome, which is what de facto the phrase internalized self-hatred or internalized oppression means. It means you are displaying an ideological purpose that isn't the one we've assigned to you, and therefore you can't have come to this conclusion yourself. You must secretly hate yourself, have Stockholm Syndrome, and be possessed by the demon of whatever the opposite of your actual identity is. That's what that means. And it's fucking annoying. But no, you can be gay without being LGBT, and you can certainly be a nerd or a gamer or a fan without prioritizing your gayness, your blackness, your whateverness ahead of your nerdiness. And as such, there were gay people who were part of Gamergate. I exist. There were disabled people part of Gamergate. Again, I exist. There were females part of Gamergate, and so on and so on and so forth. Because the ideological constructs that you came up with in academia don't actually map onto anything that resembles the real world. And when you try to bring morality into a non-moral space, not an anti-moral space, a non-moral space, you will be told to get fucked because people in general don't like invasive morality or invasive moralism at all. I.e., they don't like it from the Tradcons, they don't like it from the social justice warriors, and they don't like it from anyone in between. Because moralism and morality in general honestly doesn't belong in the public sphere, period. It belongs in the private sphere. Get fucked. Moving on. Sorry. It's just there's so many ways that was wrong. I couldn't stop myself from listing them all. Brainstormer crashed again, did he? Oh well.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, my internet was like getting a little weird, so I just had to like unplug it and put it back in. So yeah, we're good. We're good right now.
Brainstormer.exe has crashed.
Yeah, if my mic is still crap, I don't know what to do. That's just how it is.
Yes, yes, Dragon Turtle. Yes, I'm sorry. When Anita said that stupid thing that she said, my brain just went. I am going to kill all that is wrong with this.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Yep.
Right. It's a useful case study in the projection that underlies the past decade of frightening resentment for all the times that I think liberals and leftists need the coddling comfort of safe spaces to operate in society. Conservatives are the ones predictably incensed by the appearance of anyone else on the cultural territory they claim as their own. Beer, big box stores, fast food, amusement parks, and naturally video games. The right feels threatened by the knowledge that they have no monopoly over these things, and they threaten newcomers in kind.
Sweethearts, you do know that the fact that Gamergate still lives in your head rent free implies that you and your ilk, i.e., the social justice warriors, and no, I'm not calling you the left, and no, I'm not calling you liberals because you are not those things. You are just the left wing equivalent of the evangelical tradcons, and so I will treat you like such. The fact that Gamergate still lives in your head rent free, i.e., a grassroots, politically unaffiliated, populist uprising of fans and customers of different IPs against people who wanted to co opt and ideologically purify those IPs, means that you actually are having a problem whereby you are having a hard time dealing with the fact that you don't have ideological control over the public sphere or the Overton window or the framework of the masses or what have you. And I will agree with you. There is a portion of the tradcon right that does do what you're saying. Although, fortunately, they lost a long time ago, and the only way they're gaining legitimacy now, which they are slowly but surely gaining slowly, they're gaining legitimacy as we speak. It's because the Social Justice Party has shit the bed so badly that some people are looking at the tradcons and evangelicals of yesteryear and going, maybe they're not so bad. This is categorically fucking wrong, because they are just as bad as we remember them, and just because they're not as bad as the SJWs are currently doesn't mean they couldn't get that bad if we are stupid enough to give them power. Because this is the thing. There are people who are principled in their opposition to authority, high, the people who will hold all kinds of moralism to the same standard, high, but there are also people who will make liberal or libertarian arguments when they're losing authority or power, and then they will flip the script and turn the switch as soon as they have power. And that is the problem of where we find ourselves to begin with. Because it used to be the left wing was the wing of freedom of expression, the wing of fuck the police, speak truth to power, punk movement and goth movement forever, and fuck the tradcons. And therefore they were correct. They were correct that the tradcon evangelicals of yesteryear had overstepped their bounds and needed to fucking go and shut up. But within that subset of people, the people who used to be punks and rebels, there were a certain number of people who weren't actually universalistic in their principles. They didn't see similarities between their morality and the tradcons. And so when they had the power, they went full tilt moralist, and they're surprised that those of us who are principled in our opposition to moralism, again high, are still opposed to moralism. It wasn't just a tactical phenomena that we were putting on for the sake of owning the tradcons, whereas for a lot of them, apparently, it was just a facade they were putting on in order to own the tradcons. But fortunately for us, there are people like me in the principled center going, I don't care what direction the moralism is coming from, I don't want it. However, there are a certain number of tradcons who came to the defense of freedom of expression in the face of the SJWs, but will become just as authoritarian and moralistic when the chips are down and the SJWs are defeated, because they don't see what they do as a problem. They don't see why their morality should be held to the same standard as everyone else's. And I dread that day, because frankly, I'm screwed either way. I'm burning at somebody's stake either way, frankly. I'm either burning at the SJW stake because I'm not gay and crippled and witchy enough, or I'm burning at the tradcon stake because I am gay, crippled, and witchy. So, I'm just going to carry on with my principled opposition to any public moralism, period. But in the meantime, would you mind, SJWs, not making the tradcons look legitimate by comparison? Because I really don't want to go back to the Frederick Wortham and or Jack Thompson days. Thanks. Because I'm not sure I would survive that. There are people who actually will think of me as part of the LGBT lobby just because I'm gay and lynch me eventually in that mob. Granted, they don't have enough power to behave that way right now, and I'd like to keep it that way. There are people who will become tyrant in waiting as soon as they have enough power to do so, and I want all of y'all to shut up and fuck off. All of you tyrants in waiting who are only circumstantially libertarian because you're not getting the power that you want can just go away, please. And I'm gonna die if I have to make sure that happens.
Okay. Last paragraph. Yeah. Moreover, the anti-LGBTQ activists must know that this is a fight they can't really win, just as a small and seething political class that tries to oppress and intimidate the larger, more tolerant whole. Oh, you motherfuckers are tolerant.
Again, I hate to burst your bubble, guys. Honestly, both of you, but the '90s happened. The Tradcons don't have anything like as much power as they used to. And in some ways that's good because they needed to be told to fuck off. But in some ways that's bad because it means that the punk movement and the goth movement of yesterday won the argument. But rather than being principled in your opposition to authority, a lot of you just randomly decided, when I'm a moralistic cunt, it doesn't count as being a moralistic cunt. And so a bunch of us who are principled went, I don't care what morality you're spewing. If you're spewing it in the public sphere, fuck off. And then it must be said that a lot of the Tradcons who realized they lost the argument started parodying, excuse me, I almost said parodying, but a lot of the Tradcons started parodying the libertarian populist argument because they realized they didn't have the power anymore. But as we've seen with people like fucking Gavin McInnes in his famous Rebel video, or as we've seen with Matt Walsh in his recent Anime is Satanic rant, the moralistic authoritarians on the right are just waiting in the wings. The only reason they don't succeed like the SJWs are currently succeeding, or were currently succeeding, when you probably, or it must be said that the times are changing, and so much the better. The SJWs are slowly but surely losing. But the Tradcon evangelicals of yesteryear are still waiting in the wings. There are still people on the right who think all that stupid shit that Jack Thompson and Frederick Wortham were lambasted for saying back in the day. And I don't want to see a world where we start banning anime because it's not Christian enough, or we start actually seeing no difference between the LGBT lobby and the actual, people who are gay. But if the SJWs don't learn that they won and start acting responsibly, we're going to get a new wave of Tradcons. And I'm going to be still standing here bitching and moaning about how nobody should moralize, but I worry that some people actually are starting to think, between the SJWs and the Tradcons don't look as bad. And not realizing that the only reason they don't look as bad right now is because they're not the ones with the moral whip hand. Give them the whip and they'll start using it. But I would prefer if we just get rid of the whip already. Nobody needs the moral whip. Nobody needs the ban hammer. Nobody needs the one ring of power. Let's just throw it into the fire already. But no, instead of that, we're getting the Tradcons and the SJWs whining and bitching and moaning about who gets to wield the one ring, instead of just throwing it the fuck away already. Moving on.
Or we ban anime because it's as Australia ban anime. Like 99% of anime is banned in Australia. It's illegal to import most of the anime and manga and stuff. And it ain't heavily censored. Didn't we cover that at one point? The whole Australia thing banning anime.
Australia, unfortunately, while being the descendant of the criminals of the British Empire, are also descended from their jailers, and therefore they are always fucking authoritarian cunts.
More or less, that is what these moralists left want to do, just as the moral right wanted to do, for different reasons, but they're still both wanting to do it. Ahsoka was saying more or less that is what moralists left want to do, just as the moral right wanted to do for different reasons, but they're still both wanting to do it.
Yeah, and honestly, again, rather than constantly play, hot potato with whoever has the moral whip hand at the moment. Let's just get rid of the whip already. Let's get rid of the band hammer. Let's get rid of the one ring. Nobody who's ever worn the damn thing has been able to use it well. So just throw it in the fucking fire already. I don't want public displays of morality. Morality belongs in the private sphere and only the private sphere. The sooner we learn that lesson, the better.
Right. Anyway, humans continue to defy and surpass traditional norms and categories. Companies seeking to maximize profits cater to as many of them as possible. The joke nowadays is that the right is turning tied to so many brands they'll eventually have to go back to sewing their clothes and growing their food. But what the Call of Duty story does is that they won't run out of stuff to protest. They can always start over at the beginning.
The backlashes that are working aren't even right wing. Okay, this is the thing. Like I just got done mentioning with how Matt Walsh got lambasted by his own audience for the whole anime is satanic nonsense. When the actual right wing shows up, i.e., the moralistic right wing that actually does want to do things in the name of traditionalism and like norms and moralism, they get lambasted too. Because on the ground, the people doing the actual meaningful boycotting are politically unaffiliated. They're mostly center normies who don't like moralism no matter which direction it's coming from. And I agree with them. It doesn't matter whether the people doing the, whipping are tradcon evangelicals or if they're rainbow haired Karens. I'd much rather we just got rid of the freaking whip already instead of trading who has the moral whip hand every 5 fucking minutes. And by 5 fucking minutes, I mean about every 20 years. Because again, people like me don't have a place in either the, Stepford Wives, Leave It to Beaver by Gunpoint utopia of the Tradcons or the, rainbow colored Demolition Man future of the left wing. I'm gonna get tied to a stake and beaten to a bloody pulp regardless. So I'd much rather everyone just stop with the tendency to burn people at the stake. Period.
All right. Moving on because that was the end of that article.
Yep. Oh my god, that was stupid.
We're going to do it more stupid, so I don't know why you're complaining now.
There came a point at that article where I wasn't even listening to what the bullshit du jour was and just used it as a excuse to get out all of my negative feelings on all the other just all the other shit that relates to this subject.
Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, this is the official Red Band trailer for Kraven the Hunter. It came out last week. Or was it this week? I can't remember.
Because apparently Morbius didn't bomb hard enough to get Sony to stop screwing with their own IPs.
No. I'll make my, because you and I had a brief conversation about this before. But I'll make my thoughts known about this. But yeah. Obviously, we were going to cover this. I mean,
yeah, we did cover the Morbius trailer not so very long ago, so it was inevitable. And like I said, I'm gonna be amused when this does about the same box office as Morbius did, and Sony once again goes, "What did we do wrong?"
I got things to say about this, but let's and the reason why it's at 5 seconds is because for some reason Sony is still doing that thing that was pretty prevalent in the early 2010s of a trailer for a trailer.
God, I hate that. Like, for one thing, there's already three freaking trailers for every major movie, which in and of itself is a little excessive. I would I would just prefer one long trailer that was all three of them combined. Frankly, that would make sense to me.
Honestly, I've done fan edited trailers that only are like a minute, but get everything across. Like it's got the action, it tells the story like in the first 30 seconds.
I don't mind I don't mind longer trailers,
I
and
don't
and as
either.
far as
I'm just
people,
saying, like,
go ahead.
like I don't. I'm just saying like there could be more efficiency. Is what I'm saying.
Well, that's true too. And for those that complain about, oh, trailers show too much, I'm sorry, but if you can compress a 2.5 hour movie into 2 minutes and 30 seconds, then maybe your movie just didn't have that much going on in it to begin with. Because no movie is so barren that you can literally compress um 2.5 hours worth of content into 2 minutes. And if they
Um,
are, then they deserve to bomb anyway.
okay, so I'll answer that question because they asked why is Craven getting his own movie. I'll answer
Because
that as
they're trying to do Morbius again. That's why.
well. To be fair, uh, but I got a lot of things to say about this, so let's just like go.
Yeah, let's banana.
Yeah.
My son, never show mercy. They are prey.
Okay. No, it's Sony Marvel.
Yeah, this isn't the MCU. This is Sony's Spider-Verse without a Spider-Man thing they're trying to do.
Um, I mean, Aaron Taylor Johnson, honestly, I legitimately think could play Craven rather well. Just because, like, I think he's a good actor. He just never gets like um, the chance to do like really cool stuff. I mean, he was awesome in Kick-Ass, and I thought he was a good Quicksilver.
Yeah, and they killed him off.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even opposed to them focusing on Craven, but they should do it in one of the Tom Holland Spider-Man sequels instead of trying to A, turn a villain into an anti-hero, B, do it with all of the style and finesse of a early 2000s comic book movie, if that, and C, usually change everything about the character that's actually the character in the name of making them a, late 90s, early 2000s comic book anti-hero type figure.
To be fair, Morbius was kind of always an anti-hero.
This is true. Although again, I've made my reservations known about the whole stupid science fire thing. Um,
No,
and
well, the main issue was they didn't get the character right, among other
well,
things.
no, the main issue was they didn't bother to even
I
try to
mean,
get the character right. Um, because again, they were making a movie that would have fit better in the late 90s and early 2000s than it would in the modern superhero landscape. Because Sony, and by Sony I mean probably Avi Arad and Amy Pascal, don't seem to realize that the comic book genre has developed or matured at all in the 20 or 30 years um, since Spawn and Blade came out.
right. Um, and again, I gotta complain about the color, just because it's kind of
Yep.
washed out. Granted, that could just be because he's in a city.
still, there are ways to shoot a city that don't result in it looking gray.
Right, yeah. Yeah. But I don't have anything else to say currently, so that was enough.
We shall banana.
We are predators. Boys, our mother is dead.
She died because you sent her away.
She was weak, sick in her mind. You're not my business.
I mean, ironically, I don't know. Like, I do agree that this honestly does feel like more of a 2000 comic book movie.
Yeah, like something like the Keanu Reeves Constantine, or trying to think of another one of those. Like I mentioned when we were discussing this on Thursday, something's about to happen that's gonna remind me of the Halle Bailey Catwoman movie.
You know what? The weird thing is, I honestly think she could have played a really good Catwoman if she was actually allowed to play the actual Catwoman.
If it was actually Selena Kyle and not Patience, and they didn't try to create a whole new superhero out of basically taking like Egyptian like cat mythology and scooshing it together with medieval witch mythology, and just I don't even know what the fuck else they were doing.
Let's be honest, this could be a good movie if they do it right. I mean, yeah, and like honestly, it does seem like it's got a good cast and stuff.
Yeah, but a lot of the old early 2000s movies were bad at everything except casting. Like the original X-Men movies, they were kind of cheesy and didn't really. They were trying too hard to turn a comic book movie into a sci-fi movie, but they had really amazing casting with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen and so forth. And same thing is true here.
Yeah. Maybe can work in. I mean, yeah, maybe sure. Also, I don't. I mean, there's also a thing like you can do a villain protagonist. Like certain movies and stuff have done that. It can work.
I mean, shows have also done it. Like, again, probably the most relatable character in Netflix's Castlevania is Dracula, and he wants to murder literally all the humans.
Yeah. So I think the issue that kind of bugs me is like, to my knowledge, and I could be totally wrong here, feel free anyone to point it out, Kraven is usually just fairly typical a villain. That's it.
I don't know enough about Kraven to say one way or the other, actually, but
my point being, honestly, if they still kept Andrew Garfield around as Spider-Man, you could have Kraven as the protagonist and Spider-Man as the antagonist. But clearly, Kraven is the villain, Spider-Man is the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, like, it feels weird that they're kind of sort of forcing him to be an anti-hero without a real adequate. Like, to me, it feels a little forced. I'm not saying that he couldn't be an anti-hero. I'm just saying that
they seem to have taken Kraven's name and kind of his gimmick and crafted a whole new character.
Yeah.
Same thing they kind of did with Morbius. Same thing they're probably going to do with Silk or Silver or whatever the fuck other characters they're planning on doing this with.
No,
Although I'm wondering
Silver.
how many of these bombs they can absorb between Morbius and probably this movie. How many of these movies are gonna bomb like the '90s Spawn movie before they get the point?
Okay, yeah, so it's like, I mean, he wants the trophy, but also wants to play something strong. I don't disagree with that. It just, here it seems like it's, well, again, let's continue on, and I'll explain what I mean later when we get to that point.
Yeah, but banana.
Banana.
Power is about strength. If you show weakness, you will give our enemies an opening. Shot.
I got nothing. Okay.
Yeah, banana.
He is weak, like his mother. Leave him.
What happened that day?
I stared death in the face, and for the first time, I saw my true self. Tell me.
The thing with the lion really reminds me of the scene with the cat spirit in Catwoman. Especially because, you know, he doesn't have powers in the comics. He's basically a villain version of the Punisher. He just wants to hunt things.
Well, I think, if I remember correctly, he's like a man in his peak physical condition, really.
Well, yeah, but the whole he gets powers because a lion bit him thing, like, again, it reminds me a lot of the cat spirit giving patients CPR in Catwoman.
Oh, he does have powers and some comics. I was also thinking, because this is where I know Craven from, Spectacular Spider-Man, where he gets like cross species mutated by lion DNA. He turns into like a lion man.
That's probably where they stole this from.
The sanction that has put Spider-Man in the hospital. Very high durability for a human. Okay, yeah, like, so a man like.
But again, that's probably more to do with training and being in the peak of his prime than it is anything else.
But I mean, I get it. It's supposed to feel epic, but I'm just not. I don't know.
It feels cheesy, exactly the same as did it happen when it happened in Morbius or when it happened in Catwoman.
Well, no,
that's.
Here's the thing: it's like we're more getting set up, but we're not really getting like the character or anything.
Probably because there really isn't one. They're hoping that Aaron Taylor Johnson's charisma is going to be enough to sell this.
I mean, again, he's a fine actor. I honestly think he's going to kill this role, but I just don't think the movie is doing any service.
Yeah, the movie around him is a late '90s, early 2000s era superhero movie, and we're sitting in 2023, and not even 2023 era superhero movies are a sure thing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And Morbius happened when things were still mostly okay. So, my biggest question is, how badly is this going to bomb?
Yeah. Again, I want to. It's just the visuals are lackluster too.
Yeah, it's a '90s movie, except in 2023 for some reason, or I guess 2024, depending on when this is coming out.
Yeah.
They don't know. Yeah, but
about this hunter.
They say he uses a connection with animals to track his prey. And once you're on his list, there's only one way off.
Six of us, not one of you.
There's 6 of you now.
I am curious. I am curious who the villain is going to be other than his dad. Just like they gave Venom and Anti-Venom in the Venom movie.
No, that wasn't Anti-Venom. That was
I know the I know it wasn't the character's name. I'm saying it functioned as it. They gave him his dark mirror. So I'm curious. I'm curious, is it just going to be his dad, or is there going to be another anti-Kraven character? Probably ultimately will resemble more of the original Kraven, to be honest.
Dick Sergeant York, better than Birds of Prey at least, right?
I mean,
Not really a high bar, mind you, but yeah.
the bar she is in the earth. It is not above sea level.
Although the thing I will give Birds of Prey, and this is the only thing, is that at the very least it had colorful set design.
Yeah, it had a decent visual style. They didn't do anything at all with it, but you know, semantics.
Again, it's just like I'm not getting any sense of style from this film.
Yeah, because Avi Arad and Amy Pascal, for some reason, even though they've watched Phil Lord and Chris Miller show them how to do this properly twice now, they don't seem to acknowledge that the superhero genre has changed at all since the days of Batman and Robin, Spawn, and Keanu Reeves' Constantine or some shit like that.
Anyway, shall we?
Banana.
Why do you hunt?
My father,
Pussy boy.
I
I take it out.
think you're some kind of honor.
You're exactly like our father.
Just another.
Yeah, again, I feel like the cast is going to be mostly carrying this film.
And again, the whole my father brings evil into the world and I take it out. He doesn't need that. He's like, I get that we're living in 2023, so having a character who's a hunter be sympathetic is a bit of an ask, especially because you know the environmentalists and the vegans and yada yada yada. But would it kill you? Would it actually kill you to have a hunter who just likes to hunt things? And mind you, I'm no fan of hunting, but they've done interesting takes on hunters before cinematically. I mean, Most Dangerous Game, anyone? But apparently no. We have to give him some kind of moral justification for this. Otherwise, how could we possibly root for him? Never mind that the most successful R-rated movie in history is literally a Joker movie in the style of in the style of Scorsese's King of Comedy and based on the backstory element of The Killing Joke.
Again, it's the visual style that's kind of like the lack of it is kind of what's throwing me off.
Yeah, because again, Amy Pascal and Avi Arad have not learned a damn thing since the early 2000s at the latest. They haven't paid a single amount of attention to anything that Marvel Studios has done with them since they made that deal, and they also apparently haven't been paying attention to Phil Lord and Chris Miller when they were making the Spider-Verse movies.
Mm-hmm.
They genuinely still think it's the 90s or something. I don't know.
Ironically, I don't think, like, from stuff I've read from the 90s, I don't think it's like as bad as people say it is in terms of superhero stuff, but I get what you're saying.
Not the comics, the movies.
Hell, I'm even talking about like movies like well, there are a lot of couple. I mean, Rocketeer, granted, that is kind of more of a independent thing.
Most of the good '90s movies are exceptions to the rule rather than the rule, though, is the thing.
Fair enough.
For every Blank Man or Dark Man, there's dozens of these. We're trying to be superhero movies without being superhero movies bullshit things.
I'm more surprised you yourself consider Blank Man a good superhero movie.
I mean, I have nostalgia for it. It's honestly kind of sweet. Because
I actually did watch some like videos talking about. And, sorry, this is like a little thing video about Blank Man. Apparently, like the guy who played Blank Man was a big fan of like the '60s. Like he grew up watching the '60s Batman, and Blank Man was kind of like a homage to like Adam West's Batman.
Ahsoka, you have to keep in mind that those were saved by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. The Spider-Verse movies. That's why I specifically mentioned them, because those are the only superhero movies that Sony knows or that Sony is associated with that actually work. The ones where Kevin Feige holds their hand, or the ones where where Lord and Miller hold their hand. But when left to their own devices, i.e., without any excessively talented person like Sam Raimi or Phil Lord and Chris Miller or Kevin Feige to hold their hand, this is what they do. They need someone to hold their hand, otherwise they default to. So the genre hasn't changed since the '90s, right? No, no, Avia, no. It really has. At the very least, it has become a genre. Whereas before, y'all tried your darndest to turn comic book movies into basic bitch sci-fi movies, and it didn't exactly work.
Okay. Anyway, shall we see?
Yeah, banana.
Man hunting for a trophy.
We're murderers. Isn't that what he taught us? You don't get to do that to me anymore.
Mr. Taglin. Mr. Taglin. Where's Mr.
So they do have him in the classic costume here, but everyone kind of made the assumption that it's probably just going to be in the third act.
Yep. Because again, this movie has not evolved since the '90s, so it's gonna pull the. He's gonna spend most of the movie normal, and he's gonna be in his costume for 5 minutes at the end, for maybe the last action scene, if we're lucky.
I mean, again, Aaron Taylor Johnson is doing really well. It's just, again, I don't think this is.
He has no material to work with, is the problem.
Like the thing, I honestly legitimately think. I've heard people talking about him playing Kraven, like during like Tom Holland's first trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I could have seen him playing like legit Kraven the Hunter to Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Yeah, if Sony was smart enough to just quit while they were ahead and stick mostly to the Miles Morales animated movies and only do the MCU affiliated ones in live action, they probably could have done a Kraven and they probably could have done a Morbius, and although again, I would be anal retently screeching about why the fuck Kraven is a science pirate instead of being Darkhold related, but I was gonna do that anyway.
You mean Morbius, not Kraven?
Did I say Kraven?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could have done a Kraven, and they could have done a Morbius, and they could have, and again I would be screeching. But anyway, like these could have been the villains for Tom Holland's second trilogy. But they so far haven't even announced Tom Holland's second trilogy, which, to be fair, is the MCU's fault too, because the ideas they are spewing are the worst possible versions of those ideas, and no one is fucking interested.
Kelly?
Yep, banana.
Where's Mr. Teddy?
Oh, you're standing in.
You're a goddamn lunatic.
Oh, you just figured that out now?
Okay, I like his banter. His banter of the you're a lunatic. Oh, you're just figuring that out now. Yeah, that. Again, he's trying. He's really, really trying. It's still cheesy as all hell and very much from the 90s, but you got me for like 5 seconds. Good for you.
Again, if I were to ever see this movie, it legitimately would just be for Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Although one genuinely great performance does not a good movie make.
Oh no,
Unfortunately.
I know. I'm aware. I'm just pointing that out. That is legitimately the only reason I would ever want to. So honestly, I wish they would. I don't know if he's like it. It doesn't sound like he's speaking with his natural accent.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of wish they would just, because he was in Bullet Train, and I kind of wish they let him like bring that kind of personality and charisma to Craven. I think that could have worked.
Or if he was at the very least mimicking the same kind of Russian accent that Russell Crowe is doing, that would also probably be good.
Yeah. It does kind of help. I do think he has like a physical presence, well, because I think he did bulk up for the role.
He always does the work. It just it has yet to pay off for him. I really want it to at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be in this though.
Kelly?
Mm-hmm. Banana.
Banana.
There is an animal in each one of us.
Don't you want to know why they call me the Rhino?
Okay, yeah, I forgot that the Rhino was in this. He'll probably be the anti-Craven.
It's October.
It'll probably be a better Rhino than Amazing Spider-Man 2. Although the bar she is in the ground. One more stupid thing and then the positive thing at the end.
Okay, yeah, it's working. Dom sent me this from TheVerge.com.
The condescending nature of the title got me. It's both stupid and smug at the same time, and I hate it.
Yeah. James Gunn's new Superman looks just like the old one. This is written by Charles William Moore and published June 27, 2023.
Well, gee, I freaking wonder why. Could it be because he has to, look like the character he's supposed to be playing or something?
David Cornswet and Rachel Brosnahan have been tapped to play Clark Kent and Lois Lane in James Gunn's upcoming Superman movie. So I do.
Go ahead.
I just want to kind of make my feelings known on the casting before we get into the article. So I'm fine with this casting. just because I've actually gotten the chance to see like some clips of his acting in like certain things, and honestly, legitimately, I do think he can play both Superman and Clark Kent.
He's also kind of cute, although obviously he'll have to bulk up like a motherfucker. But you know,
Yeah.
them's the rules regardless.
And obviously, this is like a fan casting that a lot of people have talked about in recent years. So throw one for the fans on that.
I mean, well, maybe a third of the fans, because like 2/3 of the fans were like, "What the fuck? Why no Henry?"
No, I agree with that. I'm in the middle of both of those. Obviously, I do hate. It sucks for like everyone involved, just because like obviously, it sucks for Henry Cavill because he doesn't get to play like the actual Superman, and it sucks for David Cornsworth because he will have that kind of baggage.
He'll always be playing on hard mode to win over any fan appeal whatsoever.
Yeah.
And to be fair, DC hasn't helped him with this, because calling the movie Superman Legacy, which is the first in a trilogy for some I've made this rant a couple of times, but I'm going to do it again because it does bear repeating. The subtitle Legacy belongs to a sequel. So if you are calling a movie X Legacy, it probably should be a sequel. By calling the first movie in a trilogy Superman Legacy, what you've done there is you've basically said to the fans, hey guys, don't worry, we completely revamped this entire character in this entire universe, but all Superman actors are interchangeable, right? So we can still claim some kind of affiliation to the previously established one, right? No. Either do a clean break and cut the subtitle. You could have literally called it like The Man of Tomorrow, and it would have been less insulting and would have made more sense, because it would have evoked that kind of fresh start, new future thing. But instead, you called it Superman Legacy, which is the title of a sequel, and yet you're making it the first in a trilogy.
Yeah,
for some freaking reason.
I don't get it myself, but yeah, I agree. It's stupid.
It's an optics fail, if nothing else.
Yeah. And again, no ill will towards like any of the actors, because I don't really think they.
Again, I'm sure if he bulks up, he'll look the part. He's already giving the kind of "aw shucks adorableness" vibes.
Yeah.
Again, but he does need to meet with whoever Chris Hemsworth trainer was, and once he does that and he gets into superhero shape, then we'll be talking. But yeah, he does give off that cute aw shucks vibe to him, so it works.
But yeah, okay. So shall we?
Yep, moving forward.
Okay. It remains to be seen what all James Gunn's Superman Legacy will bring to the big screen that Warner Brothers Discovery's previous Superman films didn't. But we now know he will be playing the titular Man of Steel and his journalistic-minded better half. Deadline reports that David Cornsworth, the politician, Pearl, and Rachel Brosnahan, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, The Blacklist, have been cast as Clark Kent, Superman, and Lois Lane after a lengthy auditioning process that culminated in multiple actors signing tests set to expire within business weeks, set so as to avoid SAG-AFTRA's potential upcoming strike. Brosnahan and Cornsworth casting doesn't tell us all that much about Superman Legacy, aside from some of the names we're going to be hearing more and more of as we get closer to the movie's July 11, 2025 release date. But it does tell us that when it comes to Superman, Warner Brothers Discovery's got a type, and it's pretty familiar, erring on the side of potential. Okay, fuck you.
Again, the reason, my love, is that he looks like the character should look, and that like Superman has been fairly consistent over the years. He has a look that he should look like, and let's be honest with ourselves. Regardless of whether he was actually able to perform as the character or not, because the writing got in his way, Henry Cavill was basically bioengineered in a lab to play Man of Steel. So of course, anyone that effectively looks like Superman, and anyone who looks like Superman is also going to look like Henry Cavill. So of course he's going to look similar because there's only so much range you can have of people who look like Superman. There aren't that many brick shit house built 6 foot plus brunettes in in the world who can act. So yeah, he's gonna look like Cavill because Cavill looks like the character.
Right. And to be fair, I think after the success that Superman movie had, Superman was kind of somewhat modeled off Christopher Reeve. So I'm
arguably too much, and that's what sunk Superman Returns. But
to be fair, I think that was also other reasons, mainly writing Bryan Singer at the helm, and you saw what he did with X-Men.
Well,
So,
but the thing is, if they just started from scratch, if they just let Brandon Routh be his own version of Superman, I think it would have gone down better than trying for some reason to make it a continuation of the Reeves movies 30 freaking years later, and having him try to mimic Reeves' version instead of being his own version.
I mean, I think Brandon Routh did get a chance to play his own kind of Superman in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right, but that was a dark Superman. So, like, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that DC. I mean, it's one of the biggest mistakes on a long, long list of mistakes because DC Studios does not know how to deal with DC characters. that is at this point self-evident, motherfucker. But one of the biggest mistakes they ever made was trying to make a 20 or 30 year distant sequel to the Reeves movies instead of rebooting and letting Brandon Routh be his own Superman.
Okay, I really don't. But sorry. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. I mean, I hope the actors who are chosen to play Clark and Lois get to really shine. I mean, it does suck again with the Henry Cavill thing, but that's such.
They're never gonna get out of the shadow of Cavill and that whole thing because again, DC does optic fails like they're going out of style, and they called it Superman Legacy with a Superman who has no legacy. So it's fucked 5 ways from Sunday, but assuming that he bulks up and gets the appropriate physicality because he is very, very skinny from what I've seen of him.
But he also, to be fair, like a lot of Superman actors look skinny before they took on the role. So
yeah, so hopefully he bulks up. Like I say, get him the same trainer who deals with Chris Hemsworth or dealt with Chris Hemsworth in Thor: Love and Thunder, because for all of that movie's faults, Thor looking like Thor was not one of them. So get him that personal trainer, and then we'll see. Although frankly, in terms of resembling Superman, I'd more likely get, if we're going for straight up resembling Superman, I would more likely get Chris Evans trainer for Captain America. That's who I would get for him, but because then he could have even more of the sort of innocent buff guy sort of vibe to him. But either way, he needs to bulk up because the man is a beanpole.
The thing I'm looking for, obviously, is whether or not I can play Clark Kent.
Well,
That's always
the two Clark Kents.
yeah. Point being,
Mhm.
is that is something that's been kind of lacking in other Superman.
They didn't even bother to establish a difference between Clark and Supes, and I have to say I was fine with that as a non-Superman fan because I've always found the secret identity to be a bit like the secret identity trope is my least favorite trope in all of superheroes. I kind of detest secret identities just as a general rule. But unfortunately, Superman is the originator of it, so it has to be done. It was nice. It was nice seeing a Superman who didn't really have a secret identity for once, but you've already pissed off the Superman fans 5 ways from Sunday, so you need to do it this time. You need to do everything right you possibly can, or the fires of hell will rain down upon you in the form of meteors.
To be fair, my issue is like, and I'm assuming you're referencing Snyder's Superman.
Mhm.
I didn't like it simply because one, they just made Superman a stoic jackass effectively.
Well, yeah, the the problem with Snyder's Superman was Snyder. um,
Anyway, that was actually like that was actually the end of the article. Like, it was only like a paragraph or so. Yeah, that's right. Like, it's like how Japan usually does superheroes in. They almost never include that secret identity thing.
yeah, I am aware. I am aware, Dragon Turtle, and like I said, I prefer no secret identities, but the Superman fan base has been fucked over 5 ways from Sunday, so if I have to be a little uncomfortable for them to finally get a decent Superman, then I'm okay with that.
So if you don't mind me asking, would that largely extend to disliking people acting under pseudonymity, anonymity in general?
Um, it depends how far the anonymity actually goes. Hey, the main thing I have an issue with is the gulf that usually exists between the secret identity and the hero identity. So as long as they don't change personalities, I hate it less. But frankly, I liked the way the MCU did it. They kept the anonymity around for the characters it made sense for it to, but they didn't make it a standard. Like, for example, Doctor Strange never even had a secret identity exactly in the comics because, he's Dr. Stephen Strange. Um, so he doesn't get one. But like Peter Parker, he's a minor, so he still gets one. Um, Iron Man for the early years, it kind of made sense for him to have one, but unsurprisingly, Tony blew the doors off of that, and nobody bothered to. Nobody after him in the adult space really bothered to keep a secret identity. But again, I'm well aware that my gripes with why characters even need a secret identity thing aside, it is a part of the Superman mythos. So much as it's going to piss me off, he needs to have the secret identity because I am not the target audience for Superman. I never have been. So don't fucking. The only thing I want is the aw shucks innocent eye candy thing. Like that. That's my thing. I just want a Superman that makes me go aw because he should make me go aw.
Yeah. So our last thing is something that caught my eye within the last week or so. Small Soldiers, War for the Necron. So this was like kind of a preview / proof of concept thing for well, people assumed a game or maybe even a potential reboot or sequel to Small Soldiers.
See,
Now,
I would much rather a sequel than a reboot. I don't want them to reboot Small Soldiers. I just want them to continue it.
unfortunately, I had come to the knowledge. I recently found this out that this was created by a studio that is known to do like get like currency and stuff via NFTs and cryptocurrency, as well as the head person of this production company be a scammer, like a major scammer. So I do want to preference that. I mainly wanted to talk about this because I thought it was just interesting and fun to talk about. So mainly, I want to just focus on this as its own individual thing, if nothing else, just because I think it is at least something that we can all enjoy. It just kind of detox from the stupid of the last three things. So,
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Dragon Turtle. Are you telling me that Superman should be adorable and pretty? Because false.
We have had this discussion that his body type doesn't really make sense. Of like he shouldn't be like he shouldn't look like that big. We kind of more just I proposed the idea that he looks more like a swimmer build than a bodybuilder.
And when we were discussing this for our Superman XP in the Lionheart universe, we actually kind of went the other way, because rather than go the stereotypical superhero bodybuilder mold, I actually went full nerd and actually considered the evolutionary impetus behind a character with those powers and or the body type of someone with those powers. So I basically went all over the animal kingdom and also all over the sort of athletic space, and I figured out how to produce the physically strongest physique for a superhero character for our Superman XP in the Lionheart universe, who is called the Miracle. He is probably the thing he's one of the things I'm the most proud of contributing to in the Lionheart universe. He's also the boyfriend of my self-insert character, but that's just small print, nothing to see here. Go away.
Yes, Ahsoka. It's that live action movie. This was, I think it was '98. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, I don't know if you guys heard that, but yeah, this is a trailer for something. I think it was someone trying to possibly cast grab of the IP. But again, like I said, I more just want to. Yeah, so just recap before we start. I had discovered that this was made by people who, like a company that was involved in like NFTs and cryptocurrency and stuff like that, as well as the head of this production company that made this, is like a major scammer. And like I said, I just want to like cover this as its own thing.
Yep. I don't really care what skeevy shenanigans result in it being created as long as it's good.
Yeah.
Like artists are always going to be at least a little bit degenerate, and this is not news.
True, but I think in good conscience, I can't say support this thing.
I mean, you can support the thing without necessarily supporting the people behind it, though.
No. I mean, like, if this product is released, I can't say support it. Watch the video if you want. Totally.
That's a personal conscience thing for y'all to figure out. I really don't care about the skeevy shenanigans that result in such things. I just care about whether the actual thing is good.
Okay.
Now, if the skeevy shenanigans get in the way of it being good, then I consider it fair game to bring it up. Cough, cough, Ezra Miller. Cough, cough. Everything DC. But moving on. Banana.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Glitched there for a second. Are we good?
Yep. Banana.
Okay. Yeah. Banana. If I remember correctly, this was actually all made within Unreal Engine 5. So
And yet somehow it looks better than a lot of Hollywood stuff. Again, said.
Actually, I think some Hollywood productions have used Unreal Engine 5 because it's just like a graphics engine.
Mm-hmm.
Though granted, it could just be the rendering.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I remember correctly,
But that's the thing. As I often say with regards to big budget visual effects movies, if the technology allows you to do anything you can imagine, and the movie still looks like shit, then you can't blame the technology. You have to blame your lack of skill and or lack of imagination.
Mm. Going?
Banana.
Banana. So apparently we do not have the Commando Elite versus the Gorgonites here. We have the Space Elite versus the Necronites.
Aw, no more Gorgonites?
If I remember, okay, if nothing else, I think this could be, well, I don't know the story, to be fair. But yeah, unfortunately, no.
And there goes about half of my excitement for this movie. Or project.
I'm just going to assume project at this point.
I like the Gorgonites. The Gorgonites were my favorite characters in the original. Especially Archer.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, that really doesn't surprise me. But I at least appreciate the design. And because they look like fucking action figures. And honestly, even like not even like the cheapest ones you would find at like Walmart or something. Like McFarlane Toys.
Yeah. The upper crust of action figures. Although in
Like-
fairness, I've never really been a big action figures guy. I always like statues.
I'm not surprised.
Uh-huh. Nor should you be.
If I remember correctly, this character is known as Ray Raider. She's the leader of the Space League.
Okay.
And I love how they're animating the character, like the figures as well, because it does seem stop motion like. Even though it's all 3D generated.
Mhm.
And again, this looks really good. I don't mean to gush about the animation, but
Mhm.
like you said, Don, it's really well made.
Mhm.
Banana.
Banana.
So I think it does have a similar premise. Well, I'll save what I'm going to say until we get to a certain point. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, this does feel very Small Soldiers like.
I haven't seen enough of it yet to convince me, but anyway, banana.
Always such a ray of sunshine like that.
Hey, you're supposed to be the optimist. I'm supposed to be the realist. God damn it.
We flip flop. Let's be honest on that.
We only flip flopped once, and that was when I was helping you through personal shit.
Fair point. Anyway, yeah.
Which we will not go into because private.
Anyway, banana.
Banana.
Well, I also want to point out I love the sound design, not just the music, but like you can hear the servos and stuff as the character here is moving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the little things that I think help. Overall,
Mm-hmm.
details matter.
Indeed they do. Banana.
So anyway. And it's good pacing and good tension. But I like that there's no dialogue.
I mean, I don't really have a preference either way.
Well, okay, it's just like, don't get me wrong, I get dialogue can help in certain things. I think there's more telling with what is not said.
I was expecting this to be more of a pitch video like your average Kickstarter, so I'm like I said, I don't mind it, but it's just not what I was expecting.
It's basically a short film. So.
Mm-hmm. Banana.
Yeah, one sec. No. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so if you pause it here, they actually give like a kind of story here for the Necronites. So from what I was able to gather, because I did research on this, so we could keep well informed here.
Mm-hmm.
And because you know how like Commando and Gorgonites have that kind of story programmed into them.
Yeah.
The story here is that there is a war between the Necronites, which is like some type of, I guess you could say like hive mind thing.
Borg. They're off-brand Borg.
Not really, because there does seem to be individuality between them, but it does seem like they're linked. And I didn't want to say parasite, because I don't think that's makes sense either. But so the leader of the Necronites here is a character known as Caden, the emissary of the Necronites, who was actually who was formerly known as Caden Cannon, who was part of the Space Elite, and the brother to Ray Razor, who is the character we're seeing now hunting them.
Okay.
So I think story-wise, it's a lot more interesting because it wasn't pure black and white like Comic Meadow Elite and the Gorgonites are.
I was expecting this to be more of a continuation of the events of the movie, though, so I'm a little bit iffy on this.
Yeah, Soka gets it. But I do think it's interesting that they have two characters that have an established history, even if it is just a programmed story for them. It's real to them, obviously.
Yeah, they're still acting on it, so
Yeah.
it matters. Yeah.
I
Are
think
we gonna see them interacting with normal humans like we did in the movie?
not in this one. It just seems like it's the escape of the Necronites from the Space Elite. Like, again, it's the proof of concept, and like I started saying, they're wanting to either get picked up by a studio or get enough hype, get the funding to the fans.
Yeah,
Don, you're thinking of a pitch video where they would proof of concept, more or less, where they effectively make a short film, pitch what it would look like and what it could be.
I think if they were wanting to do a continuation of Small Soldiers, it would have been better off to do a more straight up sequel to it than trying to.
I don't like showing you shit that I like, just because you always end up shitting all over it.
It's like trying to sell a reboot of Transformers by doing Beast Wars is kind of what it's doing to me, and it's like, okay, but that's a different IP. Then it's not what you're selling. You're selling this as Small Soldiers, but there are no Commandos, no Gorgonites, and no interacting with humans. So what?
I regret showing you this.
I apologize for seeing things the way I see them, but I can't see them any other way.
You know, fucking buzzkill.
I'm sorry, but you tell me a Small Soldiers continuation. I'm expecting some Gorgonites and some freaking Commandos and interacting with humans at some point.
Well, okay.
Like,
well, I also want to point this out. They don't interact with humans all the time.
No, but again, like they kind of set up a jumping off point at the end of the movie where the Gorgonites go off by themselves. If we were dealing with that, I'd be more on board with it. Like, what does their civilization look like now that they're off in the woods randomly? That kind of thing. This is just this is using the Small Soldiers name, but it has almost nothing in common with the actual franchise. And it kind of bugs me.
I think he gets that Ahsoka, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, I get that this is a proof of concept, but it's a proof of a concept that has nothing to do with the IP it's trying to ape off of. It's like trying to do it's a little bit like saying I'm doing a sequel to Warhammer and all of a sudden it's 40K. Like 40K is interesting and all, but if you sold me on it being original Warhammer and all of a sudden it's 40K, I would be pissed. Well, you tell me we're doing a continuation of Small Soldiers, except no Gorgonites and no Commandos, and by the way, also we're not even attempting to reference the stuff that previously happened in canon, and I'm gonna be like, why are you calling it Small Soldiers then? Change the name and call it its own IP.
It's not really like I don't get your point. I do. I just think this still works, if nothing else, as a spiritual successor.
And it can be a spiritual successor that doesn't have the name attached to it, is the thing.
And like I said, well, again, I think we also keep in mind that this was the reboot / reimagining. Yeah.
Well, fuck that noise. I don't want it rebooted. I wanted an actual sequel because they actually left it open for one at the end of the movie. Like, what does the Gorgonite civilization look like? How do they protect themselves from a world where there's a bunch of humans or something? Like, does the kid from the first movie continue to interact with them? Because they keep in mind that the chips in the movie are like hyper intelligent. So God only knows how would their AI evolve over time as they learn about the real world and stuff. What would that do? These are questions that I actually would like some substantive answers to, but apparently I'm not getting them because we wanted to use the Small Soldiers IP and didn't want to use anything relating to Small Soldiers, I guess.
I mean, again, it's not like I don't disagree with you. I get what you mean.
I guess it bothers me because the potential to continue the story that we already had was there, or the potential to call it something else and start your own IP was also there. But here we're kind of stuck in this Frankenstein limbo area where it's like it's nothing to do with the thing I care about, but it's also not its own thing either, apparently.
I mean, Ahsoka does bring up the point of like it's been sitting for 25 years. The fans got impatient and did it themselves. Oh no! Wait, hold on. Sorry, I forgot to read the first part of that. I mean, the fans have already made one. There have been like 2 dozen fan projects that have done it because it has been sitting for 25 years. Fans got impatient and did it themselves.
Well, I haven't seen any of those, so like this is the first time I've ever heard of anyone trying to do a sequel to Small Soldiers,
Okay.
and it's nothing to do with Small Soldiers.
Okay.
But it's calling himself that.
Sorry, it's just like Ahsoka wrote more, so. Same here, Dalton, but it just is a proof of concept. It can change later to be similar to it. Probably was not to the original, and a lot of stuff changes from a proof of concept. Yeah, it's like like behind the scenes stuff, like when you see like storyboards or animations and stuff, there's like different scenes that show like what could be like alternate takes and stuff.
Right, but that only works if it's not an already established IP. It's called the Small Soldiers thing. So maybe I'm weird, but my first question is, where are the Gorgonites and where are the Commandos? And where are all the other things that were already pre-established? And like, I get the concept changing and the concept shifting when it's a new IP, because that's how it works. But when you already have a first movie to go off of, far be it from me to wonder where the fuck all the stuff in the first one went. it, it it's a little bit like how in Gremlins 2 they changed their minds from the Mogwai being these, quasi spiritual mystical animals to aliens randomly. It's like, okay, that idea could work, I guess, but why is it a sequel to Gremlins?
Wait, well, I'm sorry. I've watched Gremlins 2 and I never saw that. I never saw them like ever be mentioned as aliens.
Yeah, they in New Batch they were supposedly like aliens or something.
What? I watched New Batch. I never saw that.
Yeah, they completely ignored the quasi spiritual mystical cryptid thing that they were doing in the first movie. And it absolutely made me irate, because it's like, that was what made them cool, you assholes.
I don't know. Just call it here then, because
No, we have to finish. We started it, so. Banana.
again, if nothing else, this is well made.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you can say one nice thing about it.
Yeah, it just when the concept started to drift as much as it seems to have, they should have just made it its own thing.
Yeah.
Banana.
I did the look of the Necronites at least.
I can barely even see that shot. What the hell is that supposed to be?
The Necronites.
Okay. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. I mean, they look fine, but they also don't really look like anything special to me. So. Banana.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I don't really have anything to add here. Banana.
I like how there is kind of more shades of gray here, black and white, as did with the original Small Soldiers. It's just like the Necronites were ready to kill her, he was ready to kill them. So, and again, you add the story of like this character right here is or was her brother. Now it complicates a lot of things.
I want to know who pitched this idea in universe, because of course the original was a like Transformer style toy selling concept. So who pitched this idea in universe?
I don't know. I also want to mention the toy designs here look a lot better than ones I've seen these days that aren't like premium made toys.
This is true. The powers that be are creatively bankrupt, and they have no problem with it. In fact, they consider it a moral virtue to be creatively bankrupt.
Yeah, it's like this takes a more sci-fi lean than like the original in terms of like the characters and stuff.
Yeah, whereas even though I think the Gorgonites were aliens in the original, they were definitely more sort of fantasy slash like almost like a Avatar Noble Savage sort of thing going on a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with the team of Ray Razor, she's part of the Space Elite, so. Anyway, shall we?
Yep, banana.
Banana. I really like that moment just because, like, it's very like it's like classic like storytelling. Obviously, like again, I like that there really is no dialogue or anything, mainly because I don't think they had the money or like have voice actors on the gun. But I like how you can really tell like how there is something like again, they're supposed to be brother and sister, and like there's a clear divide between them because of given like the war and stuff in their story at least. So again, if nothing else, Don, I think you can say like even if this wasn't related to the Small Soldiers thing, you can at least read the storytelling within this.
Again, the biggest mistake they made was making the Small Soldiers related. If it was its own IP, that would be interesting.
Okay, I can kind of agree with that then. But I think you can also agree with the storytelling within just 3 minutes is already more engaging than most movies we get these days.
I will say that this, like so many trailers in this day and age, could use a narrator. Where's the inner world guy? Hire the inner world guy.
You just want to hear.
I'm sorry. I missed the lost art of trailers with actual narration over them. Like
Sorry, it's Strantrell said something, but I could take it either or. Okay. I've only seen small parts of that movie. Were there female commandos in the first one? I mean, kind of. There were female commandos.
well, in the sense that when one of the commandos died, they used his chip to infuse some Barbie dolls and bring them to life.
Oh, Gwendolyn dolls.
But they were, they were totally in universe XP for Barbie dolls.
Well, okay. And the focus on her and the haircut makes my SJW insert detective thing. I would have to disagree now because one, I've seen that so many times, and I will agree it's become synonymous with SJW characters, like the haircut. But one, I think it's stylized enough that it looks fine. And it's just a common hairstyle I've seen in like sci-fi stories.
I didn't notice it until you mentioned it, Ahsoka, but I'm kind of noticing it now. But sadly enough, that might be just a relating to the kids thing, because sadly enough, people in Brainstormer's generation actually do cut their hair like that, and people in my generation, for some fucking reason, actually do cut their hair like that. I don't know why either, but
again, my reasoning, it's fine if it can be stylized. Most of the time, it's not. It just looks shit. You know.
It always reminds me of the Danny Phantom episode where Technus first shows up, when all the ecto goo gets splurged onto a bunch of the stuff from the garage, and the hair trimmer comes to life. It looks like somebody lost a fight with that thing whenever that happens.
Fair enough, but and also the focus on her. I mean, she is, according to the story in lore for these characters, she is one of two primary main characters of the story. Like her brother, who she turned into a Necronite to save him because he was dying. So, I mean, I don't know. To me, it makes sense why they focus on her, because she's one half of a primary story. You know? So, but then again, I will agree. I can never tell if anything's SJW until it's pointed out to me. But I'm not really getting a sense from this.
There's not a level of contempt in this, other than the fact that they should have just called it its own IP instead of aping small floaters. But that's more due, I think, to some creative person getting a little bit too far up their own ass. More so than contempt for the fan base.
Wait, no, Don, you're not Gen Z, right?
No, I'm a millennial.
Yeah, I'm a
tail end of millennial, but I'm a millennial. I was born in '95.
Yeah, so Ahsoka and I are Gen Z.
Yes, y'all are Zoomers, and I'm not sure about Dragon Turtle.
Yeah, mostly every time I've seen the hairstyle, it's usually an arc or something that it works better. I've never seen it work well in live action, or real life.
It's the whole deliberate asymmetry thing. Like I don't agree with diversity in comics on much, but I will agree with him in the sense of the mental illness haircut. Because that is how it looks. The deliberate asymmetry just looks wrong. Like, if you're gonna shave the head, shave all sides of the head rather than just the one side and leave the other side longer. Deliberate asymmetry bugs me, and it doesn't look good.
You were born in '97.
So I am 2 years older than Dragon Turtle. That surprises me. I assumed we were right around the same age. And now I feel old because everyone here is young. Damn it.
Um, alright.
Back in my day intensifies.
I always make fun of you for being older than me, so okay. Yeah, I also the music too is like really good. I think. I mean, yeah, it's a bit generic. I won't deny that, but I think it works.
It's a concept thing, so of course they're not gonna be able to splurge for their own music. I assume if this ever takes off, then they will make their own.
Dan Charles, there's a reason it's the punk haircut. It deliberately breaks the rules. To be fair, it has been in nowadays. I don't really think it's considered a punk haircut anymore.
No, it's not, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Even the punks did what they did to be like stylized and confrontational. This literally just looks like it literally looks like it literally looks like an embodiment of the feminist idea of beauty standards are bad, therefore we're going to directly subvert them on purpose. Okay, that whole thing, because again, it's the whole deliberately asymmetrical bullshit bugs me. It's kind of like it's even worse when like one side is long and the other side is like shaved, like with the way Amber Heard did hers when she was at trial. Why she thought that made her look good, I will never know. But like, yeah, one side was completely shaved and the other side was long. It always makes me go, get back in that chair until your haircut's finished, young lady. That it always does that. Fucking deliberate asymmetry bugs me.
I will say here, I think it is stylized enough that it does work.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said, I didn't notice it until Ahsoka mentioned it.
But I don't really think it was focused on, mind you, because they're focused on telling the story here. Then.
Well, she's also an alien kind of creature, so it works.
No, it's supposed to be human, I think. More like a cyborg, because I'm seeing like metal lines on her face.
Well, but it's a sci-fi futuristic setting, so weird haircuts look at least a little bit more in place than they would otherwise.
Yeah, I will agree with that. Okay, so both my grandparents were from the British generation. My parents were baby boomers. That's Ahsoka.
My mom was a Gen Xer, but she was also 17 when she had me, so that's probably why.
I was raised by my grandparents, which I believe they were. Yeah. Well, my mom would be a millennial, so grandparents would be baby boomers. Yeah, they were.
Well, how old was your mom?
Did you have me?
Yeah.
19.
Okay, so when you were born in 99, so 10, 89, and then okay, so I think actually your mom might have been a Gen Xer.
Oh, then my
Yeah,
well, my brothers be Gen Xers too because they were born in 58.
No, that hang on. Yes, I'm pretty sure they would still be boomers because the baby boom took place between 45 when World War II ended and 64. So your grandparents are still grandparents are still boomers. But I think your mom was a Gen Xer.
Okay, honestly, I doubt it. Really.
Unless I'm doing math wrong, because you were born in 99. 10 years would be 89, and then another 9 years. So your mom would have been born in 1980 then, which is Gen X. Because my mom is a Gen Xer and she was 78.
Wait, you said 1980, right? For my mom.
Yeah, if she was 19 when she had you and you were born in 99, then 10 years would be 89, and then another 9 years off would be 1980.
Yeah. Okay. I fucking hate math. Right? I think I've said that before, but goddamn, I hate math.
I hate the American educational system that makes math miserable, because
You do.
that's the real problem.
All right. Anyway, shall we continue? We got about 2 or so minutes left of this.
Yep, banana.
I also want to point out there is like, to me, I noticed a slight shift in her face as her brother left, like almost kind of a sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's subtle, but it's there. And again, I love that. Just like, well, I like subtlety, you know,
Uh-huh.
especially when it comes to conveying emotions, because people are not often broadcasting their emotions.
Yeah, emotions aren't usually drawn by anime artists. It might make life easier if they were, but yeah, emotions aren't usually drawn by anime artists.
Shall we?
Banana.
Oh, and I also want to point out, I remember someone saying that Jennifer Hale, famous voice actress, she voiced female Commander Shepard.
Mhm.
Some other ones, I'm sure, should voice this character, like Ray Raver. Not sure you have anything to say to that. Obviously, I just wanted to point that out, and I could see it, honestly.
Mhm.
Anyway, shall we?
Mhm.
Banana.
Banana.
And upcoming is the part I knew I wanted to at least talk about the most.
Okay, the glowing orange thing is interesting. What is it?
Well, we'll see in a moment. Because I think she has a title of what she does. Like,
Mhm.
you know how like each Commando Elite member was supposed to have like a role to play, like an archetype.
Yeah, a designation. Like one
Uh,
of them was a scientist, one of them was the artillery specialist, one of them was the
Communications expert.
explosive expert, etc., etc. Yeah.
She, if I remember correctly, she is supposed to be the platoon leader. So that could be that she's summoning the troops.
Mhm. You know what would have also made an interesting riff off of Small Soldiers?
Mm-hmm.
Actually doing a movie set in the universe of the Small Soldiers.
I think there was a video game that did that.
Because that would also be the sort of non-standard continuation I wouldn't mind seeing, is the like movie or video game or whatever that was in universe to the Gorgonite v Commandos mythos. What did they call that IP in universe? I don't freaking remember.
When you, I'm sorry, like say again. I was reading the comments.
What was the name of the actual Gorgonite versus Commandos IP in universe? Like, what did they call it?
I think it legitimately was the command. Maybe no, I think it was the Commando Elite. Just the Commando Elite.
Someone with the power to Google, please Google that for us, because I want to know.
Yeah. Okay, now that's gonna bug me.
I'm sure it would say it in like a movie synopsis or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's gonna bug me now not to know what. Oh, was it? Okay. That's kind of a boring IP name for, like, they're obviously trying to do like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles / like Transformer style toy based IP.
Well, G.I. Joe.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I guess that does sort of work, but I don't know. You could have gotten away with like Commandos versus Aliens or something like that.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, the Commando Elite are supposed to be the good guys and are supposed to be the titular characters of the brand. So, I mean, you got G.I. Joe and they fight Cobra. So,
Well, yeah, and you've got the Space Rangers and the Buzz Lightyear IP. So okay, never mind. I withdraw I withdraw my objection, but it is a little bit anticlimactic.
I mean, you're not wrong. Honestly, I would have. I don't know what I'd call it, but
Whatever the name of the Gorgonite's home planet was, I'd call it like War for Gorgon or something.
Gorgon.
Yeah, War for Gorgon or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we?
Or maybe Gorgon Elite would be see, that's an interesting like 80s stroke 90s toy based IP name. I could see that being a thing. Anyway, banana.
No.
I just realized what the movie could be called. It could be called Commando Elite War for Gorgon, and it'd basically be a better version of Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, if they did that. God damn, I want to see it now.
Okay, so I know we have this. I know overall, I think we can all agree AI art overall is a stupid thing.
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's just another tool.
No, I do. I'm talking more like on the use people would use for it, like using to pass off as their own art instead of like a concept builder for art. Like
I mean,
no,
people use a digital interface to draw all the time, and they still consider it their own art. So I don't see.
Okay, no, when having a discussion, we got so derailed when we actually tried to have a discussion before. No.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna bring up that I remember watching videos of someone like having like these AI generated art pieces of like what if James Cameron did Avatar in like the 80s and 90s. And it looked really interesting. And so
it probably would be a lot less objectionable if he had just done his original take on it. Like it would have at least still had that like 80s 90s charm to it.
Yeah, and it also
would have at least made it more defensible.
Well, it also wouldn't have been over reliant on the CGI, though. Granted, without the CGI of Avatar,
well, it actually might have a more interesting visual style if it was limited to the rules and restrictions of like the 80s and 90s. Like, because this is something I've noticed. CGI has actively gotten worse in recent years. Like, look at something that came out in the early 2000s. Look at like the second and third Matrix movies, and then look at something like The Flash. It's actually actively gotten worse, and less stylized and less good.
I'm not disagreeing with you that, but I also want to point out, given that what we learned about behind the scenes of visual effects, of how like artists are like super overworked and never given true time to like render it and really work on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not blaming the artists. It's certainly not their fault. And if they were given the time and resources to do their jobs, it'd be like there are still good examples of CG. Like I'm gonna pull one of my personal examples, and everyone's gonna groan, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like Dr. Fate looked really good in Black Adam. You could tell that someone put their heart and soul into the CGI for Dr. Fate and Black Adam.
Mhm. I just want to point out, I mean, this might be somewhat cheating because this was in 2010, I believe,
Mhm.
but Pacific Rim.
Although Guillermo always mixes CG and practical. Which, to be fair,
I'm talking about like the
yeah.
mech. I'm talking about like the mech fights and the monster fights. I'm not talking about like the interior stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, I get what you're saying. He really if he had released the first Avatar like 10 years before, like in 1999, right around the time that The Matrix came out, and he could still use like the technology that like the Matrix gave us, or maybe even wait until after the Matrix movies are done, like in 2004 or something. If he had done Avatar but with like the visual effects of the early Matrix movies, I actually would have a lot more respect for it, and it wouldn't be super outdated.
Anyway, kind of going back to the trailer. I'm sorry, like if I'm derailing the conversation again, folks. I'm just trying to keep this on track and stuff. I love the music for this just because of how like the guitar, it's like it's very intense and it gets a sense of kind of, to me at least, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but like just a kind of more aggressive epicness, I guess, for like the reveal of this
Grungy, almost.
Yeah, grungy. Thank you. Um, Also, I'm digging the style of like what we're seeing currently of the Space Elite. Like the one figure we saw that kind of looked like he's based off of Nick Nitro from Small Soldiers.
Yeah.
So
the one that died and then got reincarnated as a bunch of Barbie dolls.
Yeah. CGI is at least nowadays. Okay. CGI is a 4-man animation. At least nowadays it is. To be fair, I've seen like good there's I don't know if anyone's seen this, but the Astartes fan animation.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's made by one guy. I think the issue again is both lack of motivation and lack of time and effort that's put into it.
Mm-hmm.
More or less.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just like because most like in the mainstream like modern Hollywood is that people don't put in the effort to make good things.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
And I'm not even like again, I don't want to like talk about the VFX artists. Everything I've heard about like how mistreated and like
yeah, it's basically sweatshop labor with computers now, which is just sad.
Yeah. It is more like they're just pumping it out because of like these really crazy, like razor thin deadlines.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous, and the studio should be ashamed of themselves, and they shouldn't be surprised when it ends up looking like shit and people react as though it looks like shit. Because again, I hate to burst Hollywood's bubble here, but we all remember movies like The Matrix, movies like Inception, hell, even movies like Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which is a movie that should have made a bunch of money but didn't for some fucking reason.
I really liked it.
It looks 1,000 times better than movies made 10, 20 years down the line, and it's complete bullshit. And I didn't even like Inception, mind you, but there's another example.
It's weird. I honestly think Luc Besson is like a really, because given the Fifth Element and Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets,
I really hated Fifth Element, but I really liked Valerian. So
the thing I like about the Fifth Element a lot is like the world and design and just how weird it is. Like, you know, also colorful.
Yeah, it actually looks like somebody creative is behind it, unlike James Cameron, who looks like someone who stopped being creative 30 or 40 years ago with just all the money and resources behind it.
That's why Lion King was CGI, because it's cheap to use and a huge amount of people know the basics of it. Live action Lion King was just entirely CGI. It's so good. And that's relating to a comment of, let's be honest here, CGI has become cheaper than to animate a fully animated movie.
Yeah, and it's odd because it used to be that CG animation was so cheap and live action quote unquote CGI was really expensive. Now it's flipped somehow.
This is at least creative because it's using a game engine. I've seen the trailer, or well, for the concept. And yeah, I think you can really tell that there was a lot of effort put in, just because like there's like a lot of tiny little details. Again, looks legit. Because I'm having to guess, and a lot of like animators, I like behind the scenes stuff I've looked at for like animators and stuff, often to go places and scan things. So it makes me think maybe they built this set and scanned it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
If anything, this is an excuse to shame video game makers because they have the same engine and they don't put in half the effort.
Again, it's the same thing with Hollywood on the fact that a lot of big developers often push the overwork the staff that like the makers of that game and give them like unrealistic deadlines to make the game.
Heaven help Hollywood and the games industry if the CGI artists ever go on strike.
Well, they're not.
That would actually get some results.
They're not unionized, so they can't. It's all individual things.
Well, they could still organize en masse, and Hollywood and video games are so reliant on CGI artists that
I'm not like a big union guy, but honestly, at this point, it would make the most sense for the effects artists to unionize.
Because it's either that or the aforementioned sweatshop conditions, basically.
Yeah. It costs more to do anime CGI because you want it to be solid. You don't want realistic. I don't disagree with that actually.
Yeah, stylization, even in live action and quote unquote realism, is good. That's one of the reasons I fucking hate the Avatar movies, because like you can literally build a world from the ground up, and this is all you can think to do is Fern Gully, Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas in space, and not even stylizing it, but making it as photorealistic as possible. Like, lame.
Okay. Sorry. CGI people usually work for the companies, not third parties anymore. Okay. Anyway, we got like about a minute or so left, so I think we should.
Banana.
Tab. Banana. This has been a really good showcase of the characters, and they're all very different looking. Which I mean, given that it's a sci-fi setting for their story, it kind of makes sense. But they look very different compared to like the Commando Elite. Because they all have
Dragon Turtle. The answer to your question would take too long. You just need to watch more movies, man.
Yeah. there are a couple movies I think you could like live action movies that I mean Kingsman and the Secret Service.
Cook the Thief's Wife, Her Lover. The Dick Tracy movie.
That's in the 90s. So,
A lot of the early Tim Burton movies, a lot of the early Guillermo del Toro movies.
I was gonna bring up Pacific Rim, but that has some CGI in it, and I mean it's got like a lot of stylized places. But
2019's Doctor Sleep is probably a master. That movie should be seen as a masterclass in how you do astral projection correctly.
It's a weird one, but El Camino on Netflix, which is like a sequel to Breaking Bad.
Speaking of, okay, I can't believe I fucking forgot this movie, but speaking of how you do like CGI live action properly stylized, there is a Michael Dougherty movie called Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters. That is some fucking artistically beautiful CGI right there. And it is both stylistic and live action. And I'm gonna say it. The kaijus in Godzilla King of Monsters put everything that Pandora has ever given us in James Cameron's Avatar movies to shame. Everything.
It's a sequel to The Shining.
Doctor Sleep is a sequel to The Shining, and honestly, the 2019 movie that is an adaptation of the Doctor Sleep novel is better than Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, because the problem with Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is he didn't give a shit about adapting the book correctly. He just made his own shit, and his own shit was artsy fartsy boring nonsense.
Let me look at that. Kind of going back. I like because in the original Small Soldiers, while they looked somewhat different, I'm not going to deny that. They all had very similar body types, like the Commando League. Relatively. Relatively.
Yeah, the ones that were more creatively designed were definitely the Gorgonites.
Yeah. Here, obviously, because again, it's kind of a space opera, effectively. You get more of and it looks like a lot of the Space Elite are very much like cyborgs. So you get like a lot more variations of their both body types and style. Yeah.
I didn't realize how accurate this analogy would be, but I think I was on the money when I made the comparison between Warhammer versus 40K earlier.
Actually, I brought that up too. Of like, hold on, let me try to see it, find it. Okay. Yeah, and also this is supposed to be set in 2022, 2023, current day.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Okay. So I think like D&D creatures, the Necronites, are from fantasy, and it's going to the futuristic stuff like Warhammer 40K. Like they're it's like fantasy versus sci-fi. That is her theory of this. I don't really have a theory at this point just because there's not much given in terms of the story between them except a connection between the two leaders of the factions.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, because it's me and I care about characters and the dynamics and all that shit.
I hope the Necronites are at least like some kind of futuristic offshoot of the Gorgonites. That would at least make it make more sense.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Still probably wouldn't like them, but it would at least make it make sense.
Banana.
Banana. See, the visual style here is really good.
Again, I wish we had toys these days like this. You know, just
Hmm.
I don't get such crap these days. I mean, I don't collect toys anymore, but
And again, I hate to beat this drum like a motherfucker, but use of color, Hollywood. Have you forgotten how to do it?
although I will say it does seem like they all have a very similar color palette, but it's all spread out and used in such different, unique ways that it makes them all come across as very unique.
And I'm sure the actual full-fledged version of this would have more colors to it as well.
Well, no,
It's just
it makes sense that they have a sort of uniformity to them, given that they're part of
because
a military unit.
well, that and also the sterile nature of technology.
Well, they got like orange and I believe it's dark blue and yellow and red.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's really sterile, mind you, but I get your point.
But like technology by its very nature tends to sleekness and efficiency rather than style.
Well, depending on what type of future they're depicting, because like older versions of the picture of the future, like
Well, I obviously, if we're talking like, World's Fair projection of the future, that's one thing. But this kind of thing where it's a very like edgy cyberpunkish future, it's gonna tend towards sleekness. And
I would say the opposite. With cyberpunk, it's more kind of scrap, bulky, asymmetrical, I guess you'd say. And with like retrofuturism or World's Fair future, it's more sleek and stuff.
well, it sort of depends what you mean, because the thing with the like retrofuturistic World's Fair type future is they were going off of what for them was then modern like aesthetics, and older aesthetics, to their credit, had a lot more artistic value to them and a lot more artistic substance to them. Like for example, look at cars from the 1950s or 60s, versus look at cars now. It's a much more the modern ones are much more stripped down and sleekified, whereas the old car designs wanted to create something visually striking and compelling. Just like look at a CD player from the 90s versus a gramophone record player. You could have easily made a stripped down, sleekified version of a record player, even in the 1890s, but they didn't, because they understood that all that glitters is not gold, and all that makes things function is not efficiency. So they added an artistic element to the design because they wanted to make something actually beautiful as well as functional.
Fair. You have a fair point. I think it's just depending on the depictions of stuff I have seen myself, and that's where we're kind of differing how we perceive those things. Because when I've seen like retrofuturism and stuff, it always looked very sleek, very Art Deco like, I guess you could say.
Unironic Chad, yes to that quote, Dragon Turtle. Unironic Chad, yes.
And when I've looked, it depends on the version of Cyberpunk, I guess I've seen. Most versions of Cyberpunk I've seen are, very grungy, very like worn down and stuff. Dystopian, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I get what you're saying, and yeah.
Banana.
All soldiers, war for the network.
And we're gonna have that blah in there.
The Hans Zimmer Blom. Because
Yeah.
of course, why not?
Okay. Besides the gripes you had, I legitimately think that was a good something.
I kind of just wish it was its own IP, to be honest.
You know what? I can agree with that, honestly. Like the Giant Turtle, while I think a lot of the older stuff seems overly frilly and noisy, society seems far too focused on the stripped down, simplified design.
Well, and it's also not just technology either. Look at architecture.
I'll be honest, I'll be honest, I kind of wish we got the Art Deco future.
Yeah, or like the quasi Gothic. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like I'm gonna be honest. That had more style than today.
Because there was value then,
Yeah.
and we didn't view art as entirely subjective. There were things that we knew were objectively true, even if everyone had some kind of subjective leeway within them. And no, they weren't always religious. Fucking Fradcons.
It goes without saying, I strongly disagree with the sci-fi military thing. Giant Turtle back.
Like I said, you actually basically hit on my opinion on the whole thing. The only thing worse than a military is a sci-fi military. Chad, yes. That being said, soldiers are pretty. Soldiers are hot, but that's neither here nor there.
You're drooling.
I like soldiers. I hate militaries. Just like I like people, hate bureaucracies.
Anyway, so with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avida, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
I haven't eaten yet, so fuck off. I need to go eat.
have a happy 4th of July, everyone.
For some